hosted by Teemu Nissinen. Welcome to Powergrip Podcast Season 3. I'm your host, Teemu Nissinen, and today our guest is 1027 rated professional disc golfer, and his main sponsor is Discraft. He is 2006 amateur world champion, and he have 102 pro wins, and he's also known as a top 10 guy. Please welcome Paul Ulibarri to Powergrip Podcast.
Teemu, thank you so much for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Podcast. So let's get right into it. So tell me when, where, and how you discovered disc golf.
Yeah, so I grew up in Arizona. I grew up in Cholo, Arizona. And a buddy of mine was just randomly playing with his family. And I would golf with him a bit here and there, and kind of a long-time childhood friend. And I just randomly decided to play with him one day and just got super addicted after my first time, and probably haven't skipped very many weeks after that. Yeah. So yeah, just a friend. And actually it's funny because now the same friend who showed me disc golf is now my editor for my YouTube channel. Oh. So yeah, I kind of stuck with it, you know what I mean? And we both like kind of came back to the same path, and like 10, 15 years later.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you remember what was your first disc when you started?
Oh yeah, it was a purple Archangel, GX Archangel.
You still have it?
I wish, man. I wish. No, I don't. But I remember it like it was yesterday. I really do. Yeah. It had I think it had a gold stamp on it, and yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and this is like 2005-ish.
Yes, it was. It was right around. It was definitely in 2005. Okay. When I first started, like the beginning of 2005.
Yeah. Do you remember who was the first like pro you ever meet?
You know, I remember the first pro I ever saw throw a disc, and his name was Lance Plummer.
Okay.
And he came to a tournament that they had on my home course, and I was walking up one of the fairways, and I had a disc that I had thrown in on another group because I was awful, obviously, and it happened to be the pro group. And I asked for it back in practice. I'll never forget it because he grabbed it and he scooped it upside down and slid it to me. And I'd never seen anybody do that before. So I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy is so good. Like, he slid it on the ground to me, like upside down. But that was the first ever pro I saw.
Yeah. Pretty great. And you were like, oh, this guy must be some sort of genius. He's
I'll take that back. There was a guy named Steve Johnson, and there's a few local pros, but this was like at the time, like number 2 guy in the state or something. So he was like the first, like, you know what I mean? Where I was like, oh, this guy's next level. You know, he's throwing stuff upside down and stuff.
Yeah, perfect. So my next question goes, from my personal experience, you're probably one of the most talented all-around guy that I've ever seen. I feel like you're good at everything. Could you tell a bit what is your background before disc golf, and probably where all the skills are coming from? To mention a few, you are good at basketball, golf, skateboard, and pool, and so on. So
I have a pretty big background in all sports. I mean, growing up, I had a big brother, Paul Ulibarri, and we would compete at everything. It didn't matter what it was. Like, we played baseball, basketball, golf, ping pong, pool, you know, volleyball. Like, I was involved with pretty much everything: skateboarding, BMXing, racing. It didn't matter what it was. Like, I competed at it. And so that's really where my background in sports came. I didn't really compete at any of it until traditional golf. I competed at that as a junior. I competed a little bit and organized play with basketball in high school. But once I found disc golf, like, that pretty much took over everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like, you're pretty much like beating every other disc golfer when there's like these side games off the course, like no matter what it is, like is it the pool or basketball, or you're down to anything basically. So
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
I think it just comes from being super competitive. I feel like there's a lot of guys on tour like that are good at multiple things. I mean, disc golf's kind of a tedious thing that takes, crazy hand-eye coordination. And so if you're going to, mostly if they're good at disc golf, they're going to be good at a lot of other things.
Yeah. For you, what was the main thing why you eventually chose disc golf over all the other sports?
Honestly, if I'm being honest, it's because everything else was too easy. Like I would pick it up super fast, and then all of a sudden I was like better than everybody like my age around me, and I just didn't have any interest in playing more. Like I played traditional golf for about a year, probably less than a year, and I played on a junior tour like around Arizona, and all of a sudden I was like better than everybody, and I like got really bored of it. Like staring at the grass and hitting balls all day off the range isn't like watching a disc fly. And so I quickly found like a love for disc golf that I hadn't with any other sport. And I'm still not sure why, but I still am completely not bored of it in any way. To whereas, I competed at a pretty high level in golf and billiards and ping pong and even skateboarding, and I got bored of all of it.
Yeah.
I feel like it was almost seasonal to where I was like, okay, now I'm going to play more basketball, or now I'm going to play more baseball. But with disc golf, it was just like I always wanted to do that.
Yeah, and you're still doing so.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, so perfect. So if I have to think about a real road warrior, you're one of the guys that have done this forever. 2021 is actually your 15th season on tour that I checked. What was it like to start touring back in 2007? And what kind of group you guys had, and how you guys even made a living back then?
Well, we did, first of all. We didn't make a living. We went and we just kind of did it. I remember traveling with a buddy at first, like I went to the Beaver State Fling, was one of my first national tours I ever played besides the Memorial.
Yeah.
And I remember not having any money and just somehow scraggling up a couple dollars to get a plane flight.
Yeah.
And my buddy and I, Corey Sharp at the time, we flew into Portland. I had an uncle that lived there, and I was supposed to go stay with him for a night. But in order to go stay with him, we had to figure out a way to get there. And so we found like this bus station that was supposed to take us there. So that took like all day, and we ended up having to take a bus to the course, Milo McIver, and the bus ended up stopping in Estacada, which is the town that the course is at, but it was just like a bus stop. So we're like stuck there, have no idea where the course is, no money, And so we ended up hitchhiking pretty much to the course, and luckily another disc golfer saw us like rolling our bags and our backpacks, full of discs towards the course, and he offered us a ride. So that was my first ever time like getting to a national tour. Was like pretty much hitchhiking to get there as a kid, So it was definitely adventurous. I mean, back then it was a lot different than now as well. Like you had to like Google Maps where you wanted to go. Like there was no GPS systems unless you had like $400 to get one of those. So
yeah,
it was definitely a different way of traveling. And I multiple times had like $0 to my name, kind of playing for my next entry fee type thing. And that it was that way for a long time. Honestly, it was that way until probably I would say 2010, 2011 or something. Yeah. So it was a rough couple of years. Yeah. Tight knit group though, we would find like, I ended up hanging out with like Avery Jenkins and a few of those, and Nate Dawson. I ended up having, like I said, a couple buddies on tour, who was a Robbie Bratton, Steve Mills, and a couple other people I would travel with. So we had a pretty tight knit group and stuff in it. I remember it being a blast. Yeah,
I can only imagine. So what was for you the turning point that you kind of realized that I want to like turn professional and I want to make like living out of playing disc golf?
It was never, I feel like I'm a pretty smart guy. So it was, I never thought I would make a living doing it. I thought it was just like my lifestyle as far as like, this is what was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to turn out the way that it did.
Yeah.
I just knew that that's what I wanted to do then. And I knew going day to day, you know, eating like off the dollar menu was like what I wanted to do. I was always happy doing that.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I was good and I was going to be a professional like right away. You know,
Okay.
I knew that that's what I was going to do, but you got to think back in the day, even if I won every single tournament, every single tournament's going to be not a lot of money at all, you know, especially with the cost of travel and everything. So
yeah,
when honestly, when I finally found out that I was probably going to make a lot of money playing disc golf was within probably when I signed with Discraft.
yeah.
So even before signing with other companies, you know, with all the travel and stuff, it was tough to put money away in the bank. And so once I started focusing more on, you know, growing my brand and like getting you know, a bit more focusing less on playing and more on social media and growing my brand and things, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to make a living doing this finally.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been a grind, and you have done it, like I said, like 15 years. So you're probably seen a lot of places, and and it's
for sure
probably been quite crazy last 15 years. I want to ask you that because you were known to play over like 40 tournaments basically every year for a long time, which was like, I don't know, 15 to 20 tournaments more than most pros did. Like usually people play like 25. What was the reason that you wanted to push real hard and play pretty much every single week?
I'm a competitor, man. I just like to compete. I think that's the main thing. I train. I feel like when I play smaller tournaments and stuff, I'm still training for the big ones, you know, and I feel like I need to catch up with like other players. So I don't know, a bunch of things kind of adding together. I feel like I learn a lot from myself playing small tournaments, and I feel like I learn how to win. I mean, it's really tough to learn how to win on tour right now with all these 1050 rated players, you know, and so I feel like it's actually trending kind of in that direction. All of a sudden, you know, a player gets in that position, and if he just goes straight on tour and he only plays big tournaments, it's going to be pretty hard to break through, you know. And I feel like if I'm practicing and I'm winning smaller tournaments, then I'm still learning how to win. You know, I still get if you're a real competitor, like you get just as nervous if you're tied going in the last hole at a C tier than you are going to be at a big tournament.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's one of the reasons that I do it, is because it's training me for that big moment, you know, on tour, to where I can take a recent memory of even playing against a small tournament or somebody at a small tournament and grinding out a win.
Yeah, and I think like people don't understand that winning is a skill. So it's way different to play like 1060 average golf and be sixth place on a crazy tournament where everyone shoots lights out than even like playing like 1030 and winning a tournament. So it's mentally it's a way different thing than just playing good and then being in a mix. So I guess. Yeah.
I feel like I'm ready when I get the opportunity, you know. I feel like I'll be ready to make that putt. And I think that my peers know that as well. I think that if I have a, you know, 25, 30 footer for the win, I don't think anybody's doubting that I'm making it. And that's because I play all those tournaments, you know?
Yeah.
Podcast.
So, because of you have all this like long history on a tour, could you tell us some crazy tour story from your travels over the years? Do you have some good ones?
Yeah, some crazy ones. I don't know where do you want me to go with it? You tell me.
I don't know.
I have dangerous stories. I have crazy adventures. I mean, there's all kinds. Where do you want me to go? A story on the course, a story in a tournament. I mean, what do you want?
If you have some like crazy ones that maybe things have not gone the right way.
Okay.
So that afterwards it's like funny to laugh about it.
Yeah. All right, yeah, I've said this one a few times, but it's one of my favorite stories to tell. I was driving to Idaho from Utah with that same buddy, Corey Sharp, who I first started touring with, and another guy, Josh, who was our friend, and we were going to play the Idaho State Championships and on the way there, for some reason, I was 18 years old. So for some reason, me and my buddy were arguing about something, and I wanted my window rolled down. And I wanted it rolled down so bad because it was so hot in the back seat, I believe. The story changes from time to time because I can't really remember. But I wanted the window rolled down. Yeah. And I begged, and he had the child locks on, so I couldn't do it. And they were just making fun of me. And it got me so mad because it was like a 3-hour trip and he wouldn't let me roll it down. And then they would tease me and like roll it down a little bit and roll it back up, And I was just done. I'm like, all right, pull the car over. I'm done. I'll forget my own ride. And so stubborn me, he pulls the car over and we're in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking middle of nowhere in between Utah and Idaho, which is pretty much desert wasteland. And I get out of the car and I'm like, forget this guy. Like I was like legitimately going to go there by myself. And I walk over into this field and I go like through this fence and I sit, there's like a tree, and some shade. And I just sit there like just sulking, like just mad. And I look over and there's like horses in the distance. And I'm like, huh. And then one of the horses starts like trotting back and forth and like looking at me. And I'm like, what is this? Is this horse really going to just charge me? Like right now, this can't be happening. And then sure enough, this horse just starts running at me. And it's like probably 500 feet away. And within no time, he cuts that distance in half. He's like 200 feet away. So I like get up and start running because this horse is chasing me. So I'm running towards the fence. And I look to where there's like a low side of the fence. And I go to jump over the fence, like grab onto the fence and jump over it. And I go, boom, electric fence. And it electrocutes me, and I just fly off of it to my back. And I can't move because if you've ever been electrocuted like that, like it freezes up your whole body. Like you can't move, you can't breathe, you can't do anything. And I'm like, so I'm like sitting there like trying to breathe. Meanwhile, this horse is coming to trample me. And I like roll underneath the fence. Like it takes all my strength just to roll underneath this fence. And the horse's pot or what do you call them? Like the hooves are like just grinding it right at my head and stuff. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness I still can't breathe. And I like roll over and my friends are sitting there in the Prius just laughing at me. And it was just like a moment that I'll never forget because I was just so heated. And then I almost got killed by a horse, almost got electrocuted to death. And then my buddies are just right there, just making fun of me still. And we get in the car and we go to Idaho. So that's one of my favorite stories to tell.
Yeah. So after that, it was like, okay, so if the window is just up. So
it's fine. Yeah. Didn't matter after that for sure.
Yeah. Oh boy. That was a good one. So let's go to 2011, and that was the first year that you came over to Europe, and you have been here pretty much every year ever since then. And I want to ask you first that what was your first impression about Europe and European players when you came over in 2011?
Okay, yeah. So can I be honest?
You can be honest.
Okay, so first impression, obviously seeing a new place, like I was super excited. And I don't know, I think on that trip we ended up seeing 11 different countries or something. So it was pretty incredible.
Because you guys visited in Germany and did all that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. We went through all kinds of different places and definitely experience of a lifetime. That's the trip that actually probably stands out the most in my entire career because like going to another country and having a trip like that to where you're just going to all kinds of new places and teaching disc golf and stuff.
Yeah. You guys had a pretty big group that was on that.
Yeah. I think there was 9 of us. There might've been 9 of us that took this big trip. So along with that, you know what I mean? doing it by yourself or with a couple buddies would be fun. But when you have 9 people
and
nine different fun personalities, like doing that's really what.
And was it like for those 9, basically like Felberg was probably the only one who have like been in Europe before?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
for everybody else, it was like a first time.
Yeah, I think Kale and Nico had gone maybe the year before or something like that. But for the most part, yeah, it was a lot of our first time. So
yeah, that
was incredible. And then to go into the play, it was different from place to place. Like, from Sweden to Germany, and all those different places are a bit different as far as like form goes and stuff. I noticed that right away everybody was really great off the tee, and nobody could putt. Like nobody could putt in any way.
Yeah.
And it was like a thing that was told to me when I first went there. They're like, okay, they're going to be amazing off the tee, and then they're going to suck at putting. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then sure enough, I get there and I'm playing with them, and I'm like, these are the greatest players I've ever seen off the tee, and they like couldn't putt. Like I played around with actually you in the very first. What was it? It was in Sweden. No. And you parked or it might have been Finland. I don't know where it was, but you parked every single hole and you like 4 putted every time.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. I actually did the podcast yesterday with Jeremy Colling, and he said the same thing. Like, I played Jeremy's first round in Finland, first weeklies. I played with him, and he said like you kind of laced every drive, and then just par every hole.
Yeah, but then sure enough, as soon as you figured out how to putt, man, you're top 10 pretty much all the big tournaments. So
yeah.
But no, so that's what my first impression was of European players.
Yeah, but it is I think it was like 10 years ago. It was like a real deal. Like here, like everybody talked about it. It was like we had a way different standard on putting green and all that stuff. But we knew how to drive and all that stuff. But now the new guys coming in, they are finally starting to make all those putts, and they are ready.
I feel like a lot of it has to do with like YouTube and stuff. You guys didn't have a lot of things to watch and stuff. And then honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I think that the teachers that went over there and taught the push putt and everything, I think that kind of messed things up for like maybe a half generation with you guys, because the push putt is kind of the thing of the past almost.
Yeah.
Spin putting is like where it is, there's a few great push putters. Like Ricky has a hybrid kind of spin push, but he still fires it in there.
Yeah, it's really fast.
Yeah, and my generation, I remember them telling me the same thing, being like, listen, you have to push putt if you're going to be a major champion, because I have a theory. I think that the major champions at that time had to learn that way because the baskets were so bad. That you couldn't spin it through because the baskets wouldn't catch. So Ken Climo, Dave Feldberg, Barry Schultz, they all have an up and down putt for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have an up and down putt on those like 1 chain and 2 chain baskets, like you definitely have to like kind of drop it in there.
Yeah.
And nowadays, the baskets are so good on tour that you're allowed to fire it in there.
Yeah.
And so I think that might have been a kind of a big thing to do with it.
Yeah, and I think like making putts comes easier when you see that other players also makes a lot of putts. So then it's like a normal thing that, okay, I'm like 45 feet, whew, you make it. So it's but like back in the days, like I remember like people say like just focusing making inside the circle and everything outside the circle is a bonus. And nowadays, it's like, oh, just make everything inside of 60 feet. If you make over that, it's a bonus. But it's like the circle just like it
grew.
Yeah, it's bigger and bigger every year. And now it's like you have to drain like 45, 50 footers if you want to compete on the very highest level. So
it's true. Yeah, that was one thing that I focused on my entire career, was getting good at inside the circle. And now that I've finally done it, the circle's twice as big. So I'm still behind. I'm like, dang, man, what the heck? Oh, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
PG Podcast.
So my second question regarding Europe is what is the best thing about like European tournaments, and what's the biggest difference between European and US tournaments?
That's a good question. I think one of the things is quality. I think that the European major championship course or championships courses, the quality is a lot better than the U.S. I mean, the only thing that really rivals it, there are several now. You know, when you go to like Smuggler's Notch or USDGC, or maybe even Ledgestone is getting up there as far as like the quality of courses are getting better for big time play. But you know, early on, I remember going there and I felt like I played really great right away because all the courses are fair but challenging. So a lot of out of bounds, but fair, to where you can land your disc soft in the fairway. You don't have any problems, you know, with good shots. And so that was the first thing. And the courses were beautiful, you know. They were actually like link style courses with stakes marking the out of bounds and little island holes and stuff that we had never really seen. And so that was one of the biggest things that I noticed. And I mean, I remember Yarva was one of the first places I played. And I was just thinking, like, this is what European disc golf is like. Like, I'm moving here. This is way better. You go back to the States, and at that time, 2011, 2012, the courses that we were playing on were still par 54. So it was like birdie fest. And then all of a sudden you go there and, it was like you're playing the USGC again.
Yeah, it's a big difference. And I think what's also, I think, separates Europe and US is that here we have like courses, and the courses are made for like disc golf. But in US, you guys play a lot of the places. It's like, throw over parking lots and all that stuff. So it's a bit different vibe, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, like, just the way the tournaments were ran were a lot different. Professional, like, that's the first. Europe was the first place that I actually felt like a professional athlete going there. USDGC you kind of do, but as soon as I went to Europe, like, I would go through your guys' like mall to get like food or something, and people would like, little kids would like come up for autographs and know who I was, and that was my first ever experience like that.
Yeah.
To where like I'm like, okay, like, this is a real thing. And, big crowds and stuff where ropes had to be involved with keeping them away and things like that. So I feel like that was a big difference too. I think it's definitely caught up now in the States as far as that goes. But for that time, that was something we never saw. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the disc golf goes the right direction at the moment in both sides. So good things ahead. So, yeah. So my third question, do you have a like memorable story from your travels over here in Europe?
I do. I got a pretty funny one. I was playing in like a little league, and I'll always remember this. And at that point they had like, what was it, the metrics? Is that what it was? The metrics system?
Metrics. Yeah.
Metrics. Okay. Yeah. And so it was the first league that I went to where you could like see where you were compared to everybody else.
Yeah, live scoring.
And so it's a big deal for locals there. Yeah. So we had a big crowd following me. And I think I might have playing with Nico or something, but I was definitely playing really good. And I'm like birdieing all these holes, and I'm like 12 under going the last couple of holes. And you can see who else is out there in it. Ricky and I were tied. And so I'm like going, and I go up to one of the holes, and there's another kid on my card, and I like putt this putt, and it like hits the tray and starts rolling, like slow rolling down this hill. And this little kid looks at me, and he hadn't spoke English like all day, and he looks at me and he goes, "Ooh, spooky, spooky." And it was like, the way that he said it was the funniest thing I had ever heard in my life, because he was like, spooky, spooky, like, because we all knew where I was,
Yeah, now you have to make one. Just spooky, spooky. Good luck.
Yeah. I'm like, first time, of course, the kid says anything, he's like, ooh, spooky, spooky. But that's one of the funniest things. I'll never forget that moment. Now, like, whenever it's like Halloween everywhere here or something, like, and I hear spooky, that's the first thing that I think about. which is pretty funny.
Oh boy. Did you make that putt?
Nope. No, I ended up going to a playoff with Ricky.
Oh, okay.
PK Podcast.
So you are known as a player that have a unique style of throwing and putting. Throwing was more like 10 years ago when you had the hop, but
yeah,
you have always had a unique style, and you are also not afraid to change things when your form is not on point. You also is known that no matter how bad you play small tournaments before coming in big ones, somehow you always found a way to compete on the highest level and be in contention and top 10 pretty much every time when there is title on the line. What's your process coming in big tournaments, and do you know why you usually play your best at the biggest stages?
Well, there's a few things, yeah, for sure. The one main thing that I like to focus on is when you're at the big tournaments, you're at the toughest courses for the most part. So you're playing a course that's tougher than like these little tournaments and stuff like that. So that's the one. I believe it might be a mental thing for me, but I believe when we're on the toughest course, like I'm a top 10 player, no doubt in my mind. I have all the shots. I know how to calm my nerves. I know how to play under pressure. And so all those things that added up, plus all the practice that I get from those small tournaments, I'm practicing those small tournaments for the big moments.
Yeah.
And that's what other people don't realize. Like, I'm not playing those just to get wins or do this thing. I'm like training for, I'll put myself in situations in small tournaments to where I'll be like, okay, this is for a major title. Like, you got to do this. So I'm constantly training for those moments. Yeah. There's that. But I don't know. There's also been something about myself my whole life to where whenever it was a big time tournament, like I was always there. Even at Am Worlds, like I wasn't known. I wasn't like a good amateur. I wasn't the highest rated amateur, but early I realized like, okay, like for some reason it just happens, I'm always there. I've gone into woods a few times practicing like just absolute awful, like just practicing bad. And then all of a sudden after the first round I'm leading, I think it has to do with, like I said, belief, just getting on a roll as well. And there's a different type of pressure when it comes to major championships. Yeah. Like everybody doesn't play as good. So if you can just play your normal game at majors, like and not make mistakes, because people want it so bad. And so those people overthink and overanalyze, and they think they have to birdie every hole to where I feel like I bring a really solid game plan that pads my scoring to give myself an opportunity at those big tournaments. I think that's it pretty much. Like, so many players, they play great on the leagues and small tournaments, and then they come majors and it's like, oh, big stage and a lot of spectators, and now I have to execute and but it's like, I think for you it's especially like, I think we have seen through Jomez now in last year, like you're probably not the best practice round player. No. I haven't won any practice rounds ever.
No, like you play like 5 over, like easy. 5 over. Perfect.
I played Ricky a couple of days ago here in Belton, and I thought I shot like a couple over in the tournament or on the round, and he won like $60 off me, and I'm like, geez, why am I so bad in practice? But as soon as like the tournament starts, I think I have a switch that I can turn on, and I have a way that I can kind of focus better at bigger tournaments. Even this last year at USCGC, like I had a weird confidence going into the final round. Like there's a hurricane, basically, windy, rainy. And I don't know. I just find myself more at ease. I wish we played big tournaments all the time, honestly, because it calms me down almost in a way that's like, I feel very relaxed in those situations.
Yeah.
PK Podcast.
You started doing YouTube more in 2020, and like you mentioned earlier, that you started to focus more on social media and your brand, not so much anymore like just only tournaments, and your channel have grown significantly over the last year. Have you been surprised about that it's been such a good success so far, and what's your plans for the future with the channel?
I've been a bit surprised with how fast it's growing, but at the same time, I had other players kind of lay that foundation for me, watching Simon grow his channel, or even Drew Gibson. I saw him have a lot of early success with his channel.
Yeah.
COVID, it was a time where I wanted to do that. I wanted to switch kind of gears with my career as well. Obviously I still want to play great disc golf, but at the same time, I want to help people. I want to be known as a good coach. And so that's where I got the idea right away to put out the series on my channel. Is called Down the Fairway. And I give little pointers here and there. And that's what really grew my channel. And then as I grew the channel, I would ask my following, if they wanted to see me play, and some of them did. So then I started doing that. It's definitely, it's growing about how I figured it would grow. Honestly, if I put time into it, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do that stuff. It's almost like another job, but I've hired a full-time editor now. My one buddy, he edits all my stuff. So I've made it like a job to where, on Mondays I film for my channel and I get as much footage as I can do them. And then, I use the rest of the week to do whatever. But another thing is, I expect people on my team, on Team Discraft, to do social media and things like that. And I feel like as the captain of the team, if I'm not doing it, then how can I ask them to do it? The new players who come in, and I want to be, I'm also a player that I don't want to be left behind in the game. You know what I mean? And I'm getting older. I'm 32, been on tour for 15 years. I'm still pretty young, I feel like. But, the social media part of it, I feel like I can gain more fans and things like that, and really kind of push my own brand to the next level, which is what I've always wanted. I had to switch gears from playing every single day and grinding out to be the best player to where I really had to do some soul searching and be like, okay, I'm never going to be the best player. You got to be honest with yourself. Okay, I did it. I grinded it out for 15 years. I practiced. You traveled with me for a little bit. My grind. I practiced really hard, really, really hard. I worked out. I dieted. I did all these things, and I just never broke through to be the number one player. I was really close a few years. I had some great years. Yeah. But I never did. And so as I get older, there's only enough time in the day first. There's only so much time in the day. So I can't go out and do all that stuff while growing my brand. And it's one or the other, really. I can take my game, and I know that I can play good and almost win every tournament with the game that I have. And I'm probably, if I go out and practice all the time, I'm probably not going to get any better. I'm as good as I'm going to be. I can get more consistent, and that's what I'm going to focus on. And so, transitioning over, I can take that same grind and do, social media and try to build my own brand. And it's been actually really rewarding to see that payoff. You know what I mean? That same hustle that I did trying to be the best player in the world, if I put that in trying to grow my brand, all of a sudden, I can help disc golf grow, and I can kind of be there as we hit this huge jump into the next level in disc golf. Yeah.
And I think now YouTube as a platform is kind of giving you the chance that you can more focus on that, and then probably more pick and choose the tournaments that you want to play. But that kind of gives you the freedom that, okay, I want to make more content here, and that's one way to make money and make a living. And then you can choose the tournaments, and then you play 20 tournaments, not 45. And because it's
I'm still gonna play 45. I'm still going after it.
No, but previously when you play all day, every day, it was nobody actually saw that. So it was so it's if you only focus on playing, then people just look PDGA. Oh, there's Paul McBeth winning every tournament. So
there's two ways you can go about it.
Yeah.
You can win every tournament and be the most popular player and make money, or you can, you can try to do it yourself and get your brand out there. And that's,
Yeah.
I had to, like I said, I had to do some soul searching and be like, all right, I'm not going to win every tournament. I have to like push my brand in a different way. And luckily enough, we saw Simon do the same thing. He really pushed his social media. He's probably the most popular disc golfer aside from Paul Macbeth. You know what I mean? So there's a different way you can totally do it. And I saw the opportunity. But I work hard, man. I mean, like I said, my day, if anybody wants to know, my days go like this while I'm on tour. Mondays are travel days and also my film day. Tuesdays we get to the course and I have to film my practice rounds with Jomez and Jerem and stuff. Wednesdays I have to do whole breakdowns and do some commercials and stuff, and usually interviews or different things like that. And then play the tournament, and then afterwards, I'm doing commentary till 1 o'clock in the morning usually. Yeah. And then wake up and do it again, and then rinse, repeat Monday all the way through, while sneaking in podcasts and different things like that, whatever social media I can do as far as that. So it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job to do it. It really is. And
I think just focus on playing and winning everything is, I don't say it's easiest way, but like I think it has like kind of less work if you're like really good at it, but there's only one spot for that.
And like I said, I feel like where my game is, the more I rest, the better I play as well as I get older. I've given up on, like I said, all of a sudden being the number one guy. Like maybe 1 year, everything comes together and I make a bit more circle two putts and I win a couple majors and I do come out with like a player of the year title or something like that. Cause I do feel like my game is good enough to do that. I've been right there at the big tournaments every year. I know how to do it. And so like, I still have that hope for sure. But as far as going out and winning every tournament, I just, what am I going to do different in year 16 than I did?
Yeah. I know.
What up? Look at this guy.
Who's that?
Teemu.
Oh,
you're on the podcast, dude.
What's up? What's up?
How's it going?
So, I guess I forgot my bag in his car.
Yeah, I was just going there and I saw you here.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
PK Podcast.
You touched a little bit about that you're doing also commentary, so I wanted to ask you that how that kind of started. Now you have done like I guess your first commentaries was like already like a few years ago, but now sure. Like last year it really kind of took off because Nate was off and how you have liked that so far, and what's your like plans for the future with that kind of job?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I wrote down on a piece of paper like my goals for the next like 5 years or whatever. And my number one goal was I wanted to be one of the top 5 most well-known disc golfers. And I wrote that down and I'm like, all right, how am I going to do this? I'm not going to win every tournament. And so that's when I started the YouTube channel. I reached out to Jomez and I said, hey, I'm going to be there for anything that you need and I'll do it all for free, And that's where the breakdowns came in, to where they were like, I gave them a bunch of ideas that I had. And I was like, here, this is something that I want to do. Like I can do the breakdowns on the holes and I just want to be involved with you guys. Cause that's really the biggest media platform that we have is Jomez. And so I just wanted to be involved in any single way. And then once COVID hit, Sexton with his family situation, his wife's a doctor and stuff. So, he had to do the mature thing and stay home and not really go on tour. And that opened the door for me to, kind of go in. I was already kind of the second commentary guy for him. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I was put in the big seat and I got to do it, every week, which was pretty tough. I mean, my first couple weeks were not great. And then as, time kind of went on, I had to like kind of realize like I had to bring my own style and just be myself kind of on there. Yeah. And then it kind of, I think everybody kind of latched onto that and they were like, okay, that's what kind of we want. We want him to be kind of himself and not a commentator, And so I've kind of brought my own style. As commentator's job is to just tell the people what you see, the first thing that comes to your mind. So a lot of people think that I'm a bit goofy or whatever, but I feel like I bring a lot of knowledge to it along with that side of like entertainment. And, you know, I've been super fortunate with the fans and everybody who have like liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just kind of lucked into the job, really.
Yeah. And now I guess you want to do it like for years to come, at least. Not that's the plan now, I guess.
Yeah, as long as they'll have me. I mean, you know, we did the 3-man commentary group in Vegas, which I felt like, you know, the first couple rounds were a little iffy, but then I feel like we caught our stride in the last round. And, you know, we're all really good at what we do. Like Sexton's the best at it, Germ's the best at it. I feel like I'm the best at it. And so there's no reason why we weren't able to do that. But it showed a lot of commitment from Jomez as well to not just like be like, okay, Sexton's back, like you're done, you know, which was really nice of them to like understand my commitment and not just kind of throw me to the wayside, which speaks volumes for them as well.
Yeah.
PK Podcast.
My last question to you before we go to fan questions is that if you have to name 3 goals in disc golf, what do you want to achieve on and off the course in the future?
My last goal that I have really is I want to win a major championship, of course. Like that's always been my number one goal for the last 10 years. I want to be, I feel like one of the people who kind of pave the way for everybody to do, to like come in and make a living. You know, I want to make an impact with all of that stuff as far as like kind of paving the way with social media and YouTube and showing, you know, kids like, listen, like you can make a real living kind of doing that. You know, I want to be known as something like that. And I also want to make the Hall of Fame. I think that's probably my main goal is like to someday be able to say that I'm, you know, on the same wall as, you know, the Paul McBeth and the Ken Climos and all that stuff, to be in that same kind of, not conversation, but, you know, maybe I'm down that hallway before you get to the greats or something. You see my name there. That would mean the world to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are solid goals, I think. And, I have no doubt that you could not like get there and make those true. So let's hope the best, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's go to the fan questions. The first one, Juuso Johansson asked, "Hi Paul, would you rather play doubles championship final round with Big Germ or with Nate Sexton?"
I'd have to say Big Germ. We have a title run. You know, we won the U.S. championships together, so I got to pick Big Germ.
Yeah. The next one, Simp Awesome asks, favorite snack on a long tournaments. Also, just wanted to say that you're my favorite pro player out there.
Oh man, what a guy! Thank you so much, and good question. My favorite snack. You know, I like. 1 second, I actually have it. I just found a new snack, and it's called. That's it. It's a fruit snack. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like it has no like sugars, nothing. It's all non-GMO, no sugar added. It's all natural, and it's an apple plus some strawberries, kind of like a fruit roll-up type thing.
Okay.
So that's my favorite snack right now.
Yeah, and if you eat those, you get a lot of birdies, I guess. Yes,
that's the plan. That's the plan.
PK Podcast.
Peter Niemela asks, you have a big list of wins over your career, but the big title is still missing. Does that keeps you hungry and that drives you to keep playing, or where the motivation comes to play year after year?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's something that eats at me every single day. I've been extremely close at every major that I can remember. Like I felt like, you know, I looked it up recently, and I think I only have like probably 10 non-top 10 finishes at majors ever. And I've played a lot of them. And so to be that close constantly, it eats at me for sure. Because I know deep down I'm a winner. You know what I mean? Like I know that if you give me a putt to win a tournament, I feel like I'm going to do it. And it just hasn't been my time. You know, I believe that I'm still going to win. I every year, you know, if I didn't believe that I could win a big tournament, I wouldn't play, I don't think.
Yeah.
And so I still bring that confidence. I think it's just a matter of time. And I've been saying that for 10 years.
Yeah.
But every year that I play, honestly, I find myself in position to win a big one. And I just still believe that it's going to come.
Yeah, because I think you have a kind of crazy record. Like you have like lead worlds when it was like 7-8 rounds tournament, you know, like you have lead like maybe like throughout like 5 rounds, like multiple years. And you were like really close to win your first European major 2011. It all came to the last hole. And and like I said, it's
I mean, even the last world championship I played in 2018, I led damn near the whole time. And, you know, when Barsby won, I had a really good shot down the stretch to win that tournament. And I just came up, I think only like 3 or 4 shots short there. So, and then that was the last major that I played until USDGC this last year where I took 7th. Yeah. So it's like, I'm constantly right there. You know, I'm missing 1 round here, 1 round there, but I believe that it'll happen. I believe that it'll, you know, I'll get there. I think I've taken top 4 at every major there is.
Yeah. What do you think, like, which major kind of suits best for you game? What do you think?
All of them. I think I'm built. Yeah. I'm built for those kind of tournaments. Like, I don't know what it is about the harder courses. I just seem to always play a lot better at. I think a world championship, just because I think I've made the most deep runs for a major at the Worlds than anything else. Like I've only made the lead card at the USDGC 1 time ever. And I feel like there's not a Worlds. I can't remember a Worlds that I wasn't on the lead card. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. Because you were on a lead card when Eric McCabe won, like 2009.
Yeah. Yeah. 2010 I didn't have a good Worlds, but then 2009 when Avery won, I made the lead card, and I was there in Kansas City. I had a chance at that one, and then 2010 I kind of took a year off, and then 2011 I almost won. I led the whole time until Eric McCabe won. 2012, 12 I think I took like 11th or something, and then. Yeah, I can remember them like kind of all through. I led in 2013 in when Paul won his second in was it, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, and then 2015 was a really good for you when it was on Milo, like.
Oh yeah, and I led that one almost the whole time as well. Yeah. So I make deep runs at that tournament. I don't know what it is. I seem to show up.
Yeah, but you will get there someday.
I think so, yeah.
PK Podcast.
Emily Simla asks, how did you end up doing the Anheuser putt?
It's a good question. A lot of people don't know the reason why. So the reason why was I was in a competition hitting a boxing machine, you know, the boxing machines that you hit and then it swings forward.
Yeah, you get the points.
I used to enter those when I was younger. Yeah. And one day I mishit it and I snapped a little bone in my wrist. And so I took some time off, and then when I came back, I over putted. At the time, I believe at that time I was the best putter in the world, hands down. I never missed anything. I remember I counted it up for the entire season. I think I missed like 5 putts that I could remember in the circle. Like it was an unbelievable putting year. That was the year that I almost won in Europe. You know, I only missed a couple.
Yeah. Yep. Because I remember back then you were extremely also like, how you say, like you were like running from every place. You wasn't like afraid to putt. Like it was like drop behind the basket. You just like 45 feet. You jump putt it and just like little hyzer, dead center, and then it was your thing. You was not known like a 550 big hyzers or like power play. You were like good for like touch and putting.
Yeah, And so after that, when I broke my wrist, I came back and I came back too fast, and I got a bunch of tendonitis in my arm.
Yeah.
And so then I would go to putt with my regular hyzer putt, and I would yank it because because of the tendonitis. What happens is it delays your reaction.
Yeah.
And so I would like just miss these dinky putts, and I'm the type of player to where if I'm basically missing from short, I'll switch it all up because I'm not going to go to a tournament and not know if I'm going to make it or not. Yeah. And by bringing it up here, I didn't have to lift it up like this, which here, let me show you, which in this part right here is where I was hurt. And when you lift up, that is what I had to deal with. Yeah. And so when I do this, it would just fall out. I didn't have to use that muscle. And so I figured out that I could do that move and play and compete.
Yeah. So that's how you started, and you went like you still use it now. You use it more like outside the circle, and if you have to putt with Anheuser, but you did it a long time for like all the time.
Yeah, and this is the first time I feel like that I've kind of gotten over that injury, and I'm able to putt again, hyzer inside the circle.
Yeah,
and so I'm finally back to that stroke, which is. It's been really nice to get that back because it was a long time where it didn't work very good.
For sure. Let's get one more. And this question, I have asked this for every guest. Elemental Nope asks, what's your favorite disc, favorite course, and favorite hole?
My favorite disc is the Raptor. And I'm not just saying that because it's my signature disc. Like I helped kind of design that disc and make it everything that I kind of wanted. I use it all the time. It's a great utility disc for me. I just got on the 2021 Tour Series, and I put it straight in my bag, and I threw it almost every shot while I was at the Memorial this year. So there's some coverage of me throwing that. All over that place. But that's my favorite disc. My favorite course is a property, and that's Smuggler's Notch. That's my favorite place to play now, for sure. I think it has a really great dual threat course there. I definitely like Jarva's course and a few courses in Finland, but I think Smuggler's Notch has finally taken my heart. What was the last one?
Favorite hole.
My favorite hole, that's a great question as well. I think that any hole that is just dead straight, like 450, I think that's my favorite hole. I don't think there's anything like being able to throw a disc, straight for over 400 feet. I think it's the most beautiful flight and the most impressive.
Yeah. What is your go-to disc for that shot? If it's 450, nuke. Okay.
Yeah, nuke. Like I think when I think of a dead straight shot, a really great hole is hole 4 at Blue Ribbon Pines. With that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that's
all the way. Yeah.
That's probably my favorite hole in disc golf.
Yeah, it's very picturesque. So
yeah,
I can only imagine.
PK Podcast.
I want to thank you, Uli, for joining Powergrip podcast. And do you have some last words to fans out there?
No, just thank you so much for the support. Like Teemu said, I have a YouTube channel that I put content out every week almost. That's just under my name, Paul Ulibarri. Yeah. Thank you to my sponsors, Discraft and Bushnell.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, Perfect. Thank you so much for having me as a guest, buddy. It's good to catch up with you.
Yeah, no problem. So, like I say, I want to thank you, Paul, and we at Powergrip are wishing you best year ever, and hopefully we will see you on here soon. So hopefully COVID kind of goes down and we can see you guys this summer at European Open. If not, then 2022. So, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, I'll get back on here after I hoist that major championship trophy. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds a great plan. So,
all right, perfect.
All right.
Later, brother.
Yeah, bye.